May I please have your full and undivided attention? It is time for the Paranormal Rundown. Hello, this is Cedric Dankworth Smythe. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all fans of the paranormal, the supernatural, the unusual, the entertaining, the terrifying, the horrifying, and those things that go bump in the night and in the daytime too. This is the one and only Paranormal Rundown, where the lads, the gang of nerds, choose from over 2,700 carefully curated paranormal topics. For this episode, the lads have a guest, Roddy Fry, paranormal bad movie scholar extraordinaire. They cover people who marry odd things, like trees. They cover ghosts aligning themselves to the magnetic poles. I wonder why they do that. Paranormal Car Talk, horrible paranormal movies, of course, and things seen out of the corner of one's eye. It's going to be a, as always, ripping good time. However, Vic strays into the inappropriate realm and gets slapped down like the reprobate he is. You'll want to hear that for sure.
Hello, everybody. This is Vic Hermanson. I've even been called the all-famous Vic Hermanson by Father Michael Birdsong, although I don't really believe that's who I am. Welcome to Season 2, Episode
19.
See how well he does that? Of the Paranormal Rundown. We have a guest today. Our guest is Roddy Fry. Roddy Fry is the host of
Destination Nightmare B-Movie Podcast with Al and Roddy.
B-Movie Podcast. Okay, Roddy, give me, just as you exist right at this moment, your favorite B-movie.
Oh, God, there's so many. And I don't think B-movies are your favorite movies. They're kind of ones you watch when late at night, a couple of beers and an empty pizza box by your side. Oh, that's a hard one.
Okay, then just think about it, and when you get to it, you will get to it. The Paranormal Rundown list continues to grow. We are now, as Dave would like to say, over 2,720 carefully curated and selected topics.
Father Mike, I told you, he is trainable.
He did that right, didn't he?
I did that right. Over 2,000. now, just exactly what that means, I'm not really sure. But anyway, we've got a lot of topics. So let's just go ahead and get going. From those over 2,720 topics, we choose 6 and we determine which one we would like to talk about. So I am now running the background wheel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 6 topics. You guys can tell me what you think about them. Topic 1, the people of the secret. Topic 2, horror culture. Topic 3, Sami the electronic poltergeist. Topic 4, marriages to odd or bizarre things. Topic 5, the Pintrick incident. Topic 6, witchcraft and witches, witchcraft panic all over the world.
Now, Roddy, as the guest, we throw the topics to you for a first cut. Anything stand out?
Marriage to odd things, which has always bothered me.
I like that.
I think that's a great topic. I mean, every once in a while you'll see something in the news of a woman marrying a tree, or a man marrying his 67 Impala.
Or I've seen in Japan, some guys marry these giant pillows with anime figures on them.
Oh, yay.
I heard of one lady married a dolphin. I'm just like, how?
I wonder how the dolphin felt about that.
I don't know. It was hard. I think they divorced, and it was hard getting alimony from the dolphin.
He wanted to pay in fish.
Yeah, exactly. How can you marry someone, it that can't give consent?
That's a very, very, very good question.
How can you marry a tree? How does the tree say yes? How do you know? Like, maybe the tree is already engaged,
right,
to like a bush or a flowering rhododendron. You don't know. I mean, it's an odd thing.
I'm speechless.
I don't think we've done that before.
I'm assuming that you're the only person here who's ever actually performed a wedding. I mean, I'm assuming you've performed quite a few weddings.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, Josh's link kind of hung me up.
About married a train station.
And has sex mentally. And then says it's just like being gay or lesbian or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, every bit of that's wrong, but okay. So I'm trying to rationalize this woman fantasizing in her mind about a train station. That's wrong on so many levels.
So let's take this from two aspects. You've got the legal aspect of it.
You got both sides.
And then you have
crazy.
the spiritual aspect of it. So legally, is there anywhere in the United States you can marry something other than a human?
What a good question.
I don't think so.
I'm sure Josh is out there typing away. So I'm not gonna type away.
I mean, I know within the world, in other countries, there may be,
I mean,
whatever,
we've even heard of people marrying their dogs. I mean, but I guess it just depends on what level of crazy you want to think about.
Well, didn't Dennis Rodman marry himself?
That does sound like a very Dennis Rodman-like thing.
Actually, there are a lot of women who married themselves because they couldn't find a husband or a wife or whatever.
I mean, are you doing that for the tax benefits at that point? So you can file married?
Very cool.
What's the purpose? I don't get it.
Well, I think the main purpose in almost all cases is attention.
Yeah.
I mean, attention seems to be a very, very big deal for a lot of people these days. Hey, look at me. I'm marrying this 67 Impala with a really nice tailpipe.
Okay.
Hello. This is Avalon Leanne Dankworth Smythe. People who feel sexual or romantic attraction to inanimate objects are, in the medical world, referred to as objectophiliacs. Here's a clip from an article in the Paragould Daily Press, from June 12, 2007. Paragould is in Arkansas, and is said to be highly haunted. Egerita Eklofmauer, a Swedish lass of indeterminate age, is carrying the torch for what you might call a very substantial lover. Soon after she married him, nearly 18 years ago, he was set upon by a horde of vengeance seekers, armed with hammers and chisels, and soon the lover was gone with the wind. The bride had fallen in love with the Berlin Wall. She legally changed her name to Eklofmauer, because Mauer means wall in German, and now she's a young widow. With the emotional bonds, deep love, good memories together with him, the only way to survive is to block this terrible event. She wrote in her diary of the day the wall dividing East and West finally fell. As my columnist and colleague, Dave Barry would say, I am not making this up. The widow Eklofmau suffers a bizarre sexual obsession with a scientific name called objectophilia. She is scientifically called an objectosexual. Not everyone with the obsession has a thing for buildings, but many do. Some objectophilians are hung up on cars, laptops, musical instruments, and even toy trains. They can even feel intense sexual arousal for these objects. Ironically, many researchers in this field, and one must wonder how many actual researchers are focusing on this anomaly, believe objectophilia is an indication of an overall societal drift toward asexuality.
Now,
I'm trying real hard not to go there tonight, Dave.
Yeah. Well, you try very hard every episode not to go there. We're just going to keep moving on.
There we go.
I guess if you marry your Impala,
with a very nice tailpipe.
With the nice tailpipe. It goes out in the news, and there's this attention. But what happens
2 days later?
2 years later.
No, it's not even. I mean, the news cycle on stuff like this is minutes.
It's very short. But, I mean, for the person, it's going to be a while where they can go, yeah, I'm married to, this beautiful red Impala out back. But, a year later, all your friends know. All the people in your town know. The internet's done with you. What do you just? Does it just fade away? Do you still tell people you're married to your Impala, or you just drop the whole thing? Do you file for a divorce?
Well, I guess you could file for divorce, and that brings up a whole new thing about your narcissism.
And you decide who gets the garage.
Yeah.
You split it right down the middle. The Impala gets one half, you get the other, where you put your nice new boyfriend, the Porsche.
There you go.
So she has to have an affair with the motorcycle first, then the Porsche.
So let's assume that among all the jokes and among all the silliness of this, because it really is silly, there's somebody somewhere who has decided that they need to marry a tree or a train station or an Impala or a horse or something, and they're getting some kind of genuine emotional benefit from that. But let's assume that they really, really, really are going into this with the idea that their life is going to be better because they're married to this thing or that dolphin. How does that happen? Where does that attachment come from?
A lot of people are very lonely. And since we've had smartphones and people have sort of reduced their focus down to this tiny little screen, and most of their interactions are online and impersonal, I guess they're looking for some external physical or connection to the world they're actually living in. It's one thing to, type stuff online and see a picture, but you also need some kind of thing in the world when you're outside or the computer's not on. And I think they just, like you said, very lonely. They don't really have any kind of connection with another person. And the more they're on the phone, the less they know how to connect to people.
That's very much true.
Yeah.
I've just typed into Google, I married a. And, so the idea is that Google will finish that sentence for me. And I think the most entertaining one I'm seeing here is I married a, hang on, let me make sure I got this right. I married a schmungus.
What's a schmungus?
I married a schmungus. It's a TV series. Lily marries Zorak, a clumsy alien schmungus, for fun. As they navigate culture clashes and misunderstandings, they discover a genuine bond. I guess this is a Japanese TV show?
Is that like when Mindy married Mort?
I always thought Mindy was...
Mort?
I always thought Mindy was really, really beautiful. So this is a topic, I think, that is actually... I got to start looking for someone to be on TTT that I can interview. You know, excuse me, I understand that you've married a whatever. Would you mind telling me about your marriage? Just
well, and I still don't see how you can do it in the United States.
I think Josh put up something that it's illegal to marry anything other than a person.
Yeah, I don't think you can in the U.S. So you're going to have to look overseas.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to look for potentially someone who has a spiritual marriage but not a legal one. And that could be a way a lot of these things are done. Is it's done, you know, not with a legal concern, but more with we just have a bond type thing.
I know Universal Life Church gives out things to make you a minister. Because I have one, and so I'm sure you could find someone.
Wait. So you're an ordained minister,
according to the Universal Life Church. And basically their attitude is we all are spiritual beings, so you don't need to train specifically to be a minister. And so I wrote away and got one.
So in your church's theology, and I understand that this is
it's not a church you join. You can be any denomination and still become a minister. And you don't have any tenets necessarily to follow, as far as I know. I mean, and I don't perform any rituals.
Well, I just typed in I married a, and I got I married a horse. And apparently one of the highest rated Jerry Springer episodes is I married a horse. Jerry talks with three people who are in interspecies relationships. Arthur Mark Matthews, George Willard, and his pony Pixel, Rebecca with her dog King, and Brad with his dog Lady.
Howdy, everybody. This here is Beelzabubba. Beelzabubba Beauregard. I'm not really part of Paranormal Rundown, the Paranormal Rundown. I work over at Trailer Trash Terrors, and I'm the former menu of evil and current jack of all trades at Trailer Trash Terrors. I have, however, been around a very long time. So I asked Avalon, Leanne Dankworth Smythe, and you don't want to mess with Avalon Leanne Dankworth Smythe. So thank you, Avalon, for letting me come over here and talk about people marrying things they shouldn't be marrying. Well, you know, there was an emperor, a Roman emperor, whom I did get to drag to perdition, and his name was Caligula. Well, they got a lot of rumors about him marrying his horse named Incitatus, and he didn't really marry Incitatus. I don't think Incitatus would say yes to that proposal. Man, that'd be a weird-looking ring. But he did love that horse a lot. He considered making that horse an official consul, a Roman consul. Well, they didn't much agree with that. But anyway, this whole marrying weird thing and stuff's been going on for a long time, all the way back to them Roman days, where they, wearing the bathrobes all over the place and stabbing each other and, just kind of behaving in a raw, not particularly honorable human fashion. All right, well, this here's Beelzabubba out. Thanks once again, Avalon, for letting me come over here and say my piece. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
That begins to be somewhat problematic for me. I mean, it's difficult to figure out any possible consummation with a tree or a 67 Impala. But as we move back into the mammalian range,
I'm sensing it's time to pull another topic.
various types of consummation.
Because you're going to get Father Mike started.
Somehow I think that comment was pointed toward me there, Dave.
No, not at all. Pull a topic, Vic.
Well, I'll redirect. Just because I am interested in this topic, how often is there an actual emotional aspect of this? And how often is it just a stunt? I'm going to say probably 95% stunt, 5% emotional.
I think it makes.
I think a lot of it is.
Go ahead, Roddy. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think a lot of it is just attention seeking. I mean,
Me too.
Because it's illegal, number one, and you brought up consummation. Let's just go ahead and say it. Even bestiality is illegal. So I think you got a bunch of narcissistic people seeking attention and milking this kind of stuff dry. That's just my opinion.
I think
unless you're on some ultra level of crazy.
I would think most of it's emotional, because whether you are actually believing this or are a narcissist, like you said, there's this weird emotional thing where you need attention of some kind. So, but I think it may be higher that the people who actually believe they can marry a tree, it might be maybe 20%, because there are a lot of odd, bizarre people out there who have a very distorted worldview of what can and can't be, especially lately. Like you think you're something, so you are that thing. Doesn't make any sense.
Roddy's got a really good point there.
I agree that I think the percentage is much of the people who do this. I think the percentage is much higher than 5%. I was going to say 30 to 40. So I was
Even that
right in the same area. I think that it is in a modern society where they tell you there are no boundaries, right? And it is constantly pushed that you can be whatever you want to be, and no one can tell you otherwise. This is a symptom of that.
True.
Well, I'm going to tell a story, and we may decide to edit this out.
Okay.
Well, now it's time to pay the piper. You see, Avalon said I could talk, and I did. I talked a lot. Talked way more than I should have, but then she said, all right, listen. It is time for public denouncement of Dick Hermanson. We've got to, this is discipline. He's been behaving poorly. He told a story he shouldn't tell, a story that definitely isn't appropriate for Trailer Trash Terrors. And, how many did you say, Avalon? Wow. 162,706. Well, yeah, he's so he's getting some demerits. 162,706. That brings him up to, let's see, carried 3, 2,270,000. And since the original contract was that you only get 18 demerits, well, he's a bit over. So, anyway, we're kind of low on staff, so we're probably going to have to, let him stick around. But, Mr. Hermanson, this here's Beelzabubba, and I understand that generally you're in the employer position and I'm in the employee position. But hey, this is Avalon, and You need to lay off the demerits, buddy. You need to stop telling them stories. You see, old Vicar Manson, he was telling stories about the kind of people who'd call to the ER and some of the crazy things they had to say. And this one woman calls and she's talking about, hey, listen, I need somebody to help me. I got, I'm having, I don't even know, I'm having, Mr. Beelzabubba, this is Cedric Dankwad Smythe. I would very much like to thank you for your momentary service to the Paranormal Rundown and make the suggestion that you head back post-haste to Trailer Trash Terrors. Don't worry, you don't need to call us. We'll call you.
It wasn't me, Dave. I did.
Well, look, man, it doesn't matter what y'all say because it's all going to stop at the point where Vic said, you may want to edit this out. Everything forward is all gone. I do the first cut of the editing, so lots of fun, not in the episode.
Well, you can at least save it for a SmackDown.
It won't even be in a dungeon talk.
It's dungeon talk just between us guys. I mean, come on.
Okay, yeah, that's just kept on the server for
you can do another podcast, Paranormal Rundown After Dark.
There you go, After Dark.
All right.
We could actually do that.
Avalon may have to say something about this, but okay. But
there you go.
Roddy, do you know who Avalon is?
Oh, she's a hottie.
Okay.
Avalon is a computer-generated voice that we use to primarily to ridicule me, more so than anything else. That's the main thing she does, but
right.
she also adds information in a sarcastic way. Sometimes we have another character, Cedric, who adds information in a sarcastic way.
Beelzabubba.
Yeah, he really comes on Paranormal Rundown. He has a couple of times. All right, Dave, I want to get that look of disapproval off your face.
Yep, it's probably about time to pull a list.
It is time to pull a list. Doing so right now. Okay, let's start the random number generator up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Topic 1: doppelgangers. Although it's funny, I have this written doppelfangers.
Works that way too.
That's a different topic.
Let's see. Topic 2, movie quotes. I'm sorry I let you get attacked by a werewolf and then ended the world. From the movie Cabin in the Woods. That's Marty, the stoner guy. Topic 3, the Total Happiness Program. The old story from my buddy Gage. Topic 4, corpsicles from various science fiction novels. Topic 5, magnetic pole shifts. And topic 6, dead souls. Which could either be the Russian novel by Gogol, or it could be anything you want to make it.
Well, we could say my doppelganger is actually a doppelfinger with a dead soul.
3 topics in one.
Exactly.
What about pole shifts?
You know, I can remember hearing a lot about magnetic pole shifts back when Art Bell had his show.
Well, let me ask a stupid question before y'all go there, because it really interests me too. So you have the North and South poles, right? All right. So if you're directly square one on the equator, is there no pull for either direction, or does one pole have a stronger pull than the other?
It'd be just the same as anywhere else on Earth. I mean, you can be standing in Chile and your compass will still point north because it's polarized to point north. It's looking for the north magnetic pole.
So if you're standing at the equator,
your compass will point north.
It's still going to point north.
Mm-hmm.
So south wouldn't have a stronger pull It's just.
Well, you could, I suppose you could.
Excuse my ignorance, but
you could create a magnet that was designed to point south.
okay. So it's magnet. Okay.
But
aren't both sides magnetic?
But it's by charge, right?
right. I mean, it's going to point.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So if it's positive north, it's negative south. That's
right. But that particular compass it's designed to point north.
right. So if you created a compass that was designed for negative instead of positive,
I suppose you could.
It would point north.
Yeah.
I believe on the compass,
I mean, well,
the point that points north is actually the south part, or the south part of the magnet. So that's why it attracts to the north.
Right. Now the poles move around. Okay. They are capable of, well, there's actually kind of a circle that they follow over thousands of years. Okay. And if you look at the fossil record where magnetic parts of stone formations have followed the North and South Pole, you'll occasionally see times when they flip. Bloop.
and this is based, at least what I heard a long time ago, is based on the magnetic core of the Earth, right?
Uh-huh.
And the rotation of the Earth. So it's actually not just a perfect circle; it's a little bit of a wobble.
Yep, there's a wobble. Mm-hmm.
And I guess the idea is that the center core at certain points actually flips, and that drives the magnetic charges in the opposite direction.
Yeah, this has happened a number of times, and of course, on the Art Bell Show, they always associate it with things like, the end of the world, or that's what's signaling aliens that it's time to attack, or whatever. Let's see, magnetic pole flip is what I really want to know about.
The magnetic poles themselves will wander around. They don't stay exactly north and south. And then at times the core, I guess because the core is wobbling, it will flip over, and I guess it reverses its spin when it flips over. Or maybe not, I don't know. But there are a couple of things. At one point, they think the Ice Age in America happened because the magnetic pole wandered in towards the Hudson Bay area, and so that caused a slight shift in the Earth's crust, which then put more of the North America into the Arctic region.
Well, and I guess that's the real question: is it just the magnetization? Is that the right word, Vic? That changes, or are we shifting something on the crust or the actual rotation of the Earth itself in any way?
I think it's both. I read Charles Hapgood, what is it, Path of the Poles or something like that, and it does. His theory is that the Earth sits on like a liquid molten center, and that at times the whole crust can shift upside down or down a little. But also as the core spins, that wobbles, and the magnetic poles will either wander where they, like north will wander around, and then suddenly the magnetism will shift to the southern pole, and it'll become now the northern magnetic pole.
So that's kind of like north of the equator, you flush, and it's clockwise, right?
Right.
And then I've always heard south of it is counterclockwise, right?
That's based on the spin of the Earth itself.
Right.
Well, I mean, Coriolis forces. So if you have a hurricane in Galveston, it's going counterclockwise. Okay, because the wind's going to be approaching you from the north.
Right.
If you go to somewhere in South America, that will change. I don't think it works down at the toilet level.
I always heard that. I mean, hey.
Yeah, I've always heard it too.
I've always heard that. I don't know. I was going to ask you, is that true?
No.
I guess on the equator it don't spin; it just goes straight down.
I checked. Straight down. No, I checked out as many toilets as I could in Australia, and
okay,
some are counterclockwise, some are clockwise. It depends on the design of the toilet. I think
that's
a lot
what
more,
I was thinking.
Yeah, a whole lot more than the. But it says here that there have been at least 183 reversals over the last 83 million years, on average, once every 450,000 years. But the one that we're in now, the Brunez-Matayama reversal, occurred 700. Anything I could. Occurred 780,000 years ago. So we're overdue. That's the deal. We're over.
Right. That's what I saw a post on this not too long ago. But so their idea was that we're overdue, and when it happens, the Earth is going to sort of flip sideways, and the equators are going to become the poles.
Ah, right? Yeah. Well, that would be a problem.
I don't think it works like that.
No, I don't think so. That would be a problem. Yeah. Well, I mean,
the Earth is spinning. It's going to be like a giant gyroscope. And because of that, it has a certain stability. I don't know if you ever played with a gyroscope and you try to turn it. It's very difficult to turn because the spin is keeping it in a certain orientation. Now, you may be able to move it slightly. So I'm not sure if the actual crust of the Earth.
No, that gyroscope wants to maintain its place.
Yeah.
In three-dimensional space.
I could see where the core, the magnetic core, flipping over could cause some adjustment in the crust, because the fact that it can flip probably means that it is not perfectly round.
Mm.
Right? There's probably some physical structure to it. And as it flips, it could disturb some things that could cause some shifting in the crust, but I can't see it as anything significant. I think it's just a magnetic change. Now, the question would be, what are the real impacts? A lot of things are driven off of, magnetic forces that it would definitely impact.
Well, it seems to me like it could mess up birds.
That's the first thing that came to mind, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the birds are going to fly north for the winter.
And bees also, bees navigate because apparently they can see magnetic changes in the air forever. I remember reading that somewhere. I don't know how true that is. But if that's the case, that might screw them up too. Which would then affect...
That's how the monarchs travel.
Probably.
I wonder if that's magnetic. Because they migrate great distances, go down south.
Right. So that's
the doves do.
And anyway, if you screw with the bees, then that screws up agriculture and food supplies. So
yeah, I guess it seems like there would be a lot of potential impacts.
Yeah.
But not in the, the crusts are going to melt, the earth is going to flood, the whatever doom and gloom. It's going to be all the weird stuff. And, of course, all of our electronics. I wonder how much that magnetic force is baked into the shielding and the way our electronics run.
Well, none of that matters, Dave. I'm going to tell you why. Because my new theory is that ghosts orient themselves based upon the magnetic poles of the Earth. And so, if they flip, the ghosts are going to be lost. They don't have any idea of where they need to be. So, instead of haunting the orphanage, they're going to be down at Kroger. and and life is going to get very, very interesting for a while. There may even be like a new profession, like ghost relocator. Hey, listen, guys, we're not trying to exercise you. We're just trying to get you out of Kroger.
Look, this is not your home. Follow me. What was your address again? Hang on. A real opportunity for people of my hobby. the paranormal investigator.
Yeah, but
Well,
see, the
that's
thing
why
is,
active.
That's why when the zombie apocalypse comes, I want one of the old school 1970s trucks. With
Oh, me too.
Carburetors and
yeah.
no electronic BS. Hey,
I want a Chevy.
I could rule the world at that point, man.
I want a Chevy 1000 with a straight six engine
Yeah,
and a carburetor.
yeah.
Well, you know what I want? I want like a late 70s Jeep CJ7. That's my dream car.
See, here's the.
I had my dream car at one time. I had a 1983 CJ7 Renegade.
That's what my dad had. It was.
Straight
I don't know what
six.
year it was.
2 weeks after my 16th birthday, I got teed off at a girlfriend. Backed up out of the driveway too fast. Slammed on brakes.
Oh,
Flipped it over, huh?
They did
Man,
tend
those
to.
things are easy to tell.
Yeah, they did tend to flip over, didn't
It
they?
all happened in slow motion too. It freaked me out.
What was it?
That's why they lowered the 85s.
Mhm.
The next series,
The
which
Wranglers.
is
The Wranglers.
yep.
After
Well, the Renegade was a version of a Wrangler. It was
Yeah.
like now you've got the Sahara, you've got the
Well, you had the
Sport,
CJ5s, the
Rubicon.
CJ7s, and then the ones we have now.
So that's the series.
Yeah.
You had a CJ7, and then Renegade was. I know this is really interesting. Now we're on Car Talk.
Car Talk.
Paranormal Car Talk.
I know all about paranormal vehicles. Let me see if I can get this out of the way before that Cedric fellow shows up. I got to thinking about dragging souls to perdition and, how much care and effort I put into it. See, I got myself a 1967 Transtemporal Chevrolet CK pickup truck with, of course, with the paranormal Dragon Souls to Perdition accessory package. That was expensive, but boy, did it ever pay off. Okay, I find myself a soul that's got to get to perdition, and if they're not having the best day ever, you look over at them and they got that look on their face that says, I guess I really screwed the poocherino, and I got to be kind of nice to them. And I say, yeah, you screwed the poocherino, but we're going to find the best way through this and get him on the passenger side there and give him a moon pie and an RC cola and say, hey, would you like to hear some Hank Williams? They look at me and they say, well, I guess that's probably the best you got. I play some Hank Williams. I'm a wee bit intimidating. And then they say, got anything cold? And I say, yeah, we'll get you an RC cola and we'll turn on that AC. Well, nothing better than the AC on a 1967 Chevrolet CK pickup truck. It was really good. Man, it'd get you cool in just a few minutes, and it was going to get hot.
But I love Jeeps, so I can tell you. My dad had one that was the Levi's edition or whatever. It had blue jean seats.
Yeah.
It was silver with a blue top.
Yeah.
did it have a little pocket where you could keep change?
Hey!
It probably did. It was a cool.
Sorry,
cool
Vic.
Jeep.
I interrupted you, but I started all this about the zombie apocalypse and about us.
No. This
with
is
the
this is classic rundown. But this, I was just thinking, look, I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, let's try to paranormalize this whole idea of a pole shift or a pole reversal.
Well,
Because
it's
they
unknown.
they shift all the time. But if I wanted to do something malicious, it wouldn't be that hard for me to take better part of 2 weeks probably and write a book that had a title like something, The Coming Ghost Apocalypse Due to the Pole Reversal. Look, if
you'd be $1 million.
Billions of copies, Vic.
I mean, millions overnight.
I wouldn't be millions of
dude.
copies, but it might be 1,000. It might even be 5 or 10,000.
It would be another New York bestseller. I guarantee you.
Vic,
That's
I am
on people's.
certain
Yeah.
you could sell millions of copies of that.
You need to
I'll
do
market it.
need to
You
do it.
write it.
But the coming ghost apocalypse because of the pole reversal. Look,
You should do that.
No, I shouldn't.
Yes, you
because
should.
that's so that would be malicious
I know
because
better. You know better, but the world's going
yeah,
crazy
but there would
anyway.
be all
would-
these strange little blue-haired girls who
But they're feeding into their own madness anyway.
Ooh.
You're just giving them another bone.
And so then they would start having little group discussions about, like I say, ghost relocation services. Just the fact that, my grandmother's up in the attic. I'm so comforted that my grandmother's up in the attic.
They believe it anyway.
And so what's going to happen to Grandma when the poles reverse?
She's going to turn into Grandpa, a mean version.
It would be okay if the very last page of the last chapter you said in big print, psych.
Psych.
Awesome.
Psych.
And then it's all good.
Well,
right?
Okay, one of
You see, and Roddy could instead of the movie, he could do your book, and that'd give you another push. Oh man.
We review your book. What you should also do, if you do write the book, include with it a Ouija board with a magnetic planchette that has a compass on it, so you could align to speak and attract.
Awesome.
Now that seems like a liability problem.
Yeah.
So, Roddy, one of the other topics on here is the total happiness.
I do like the idea. I'm sorry. I do like the idea of a magnetically aligned Ouija board. That is an interesting concept.
I like that idea. Now, and once again, let's say that you were to you design this thing. You can't call it a Ouija board because then you get in trouble. This is the no. It's got to have a cool name like the Magneto Info Board.
Ooh, there you go.
No, the Magneto Info Board or something like that. And spend a little time making it pretty. Figure out how to make a magnetic planchette. And then get with a manufacturer in China and get 1,000 of them made.
Yeah.
Okay, look, there are all these apps out there. Ovilus, Ghost Radar, a whole bunch of paranormal apps that are based on magnetic frequencies.
Call it the board.
So
I like that.
What you do is you develop a Ghost Radar-like app that is magnetically aligned to where true north is at that time. Because the theory would be that, well, your ghosts aren't exactly where the radar says it is because you're not truly aligned to true north.
Oh,
but
okay,
with our app,
our app, it tells you exactly
where it is because boy, there's a lot of potential here.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Josh,
what do you think, Vic? Is there any relationship with this and the ley lines?
I don't know anything about ley lines.
Ley lines.
I mean, I've read about ley lines. I've heard strange British people on the Art Bell show say things like, well, the ley lines are particularly active this season. Talking about how Stonehenge and all these other odd Paleolithic formations are meant to follow or control the ley lines in some way. But that's about all I know. Roddy,
there are actual
you were
maps of the ley lines.
Yeah, but Roddy was over there in Ireland. I figure there must have been like some day when he was out taking a walk and he just got ley line shanghaied.
Straight to the pub.
Yeah, I think it had to be like you were going to the pub, but you ended up at the Hinge. So
yeah, supposedly there are. I don't know if they're magnetic or what, but it's like a network of lines across the entire globe, and
yes,
if people are sensitive to it. Then you have to admit sometimes you go into an area and you feel good. You don't know why, but it just feels like a nice area. And other times you go in, and this is not necessarily in cities, which is more an influence of people, but you're outside in nature. And you go in other areas and it just feels off. And I think some people think that's because some spots lay along ley lines that are positive. And the negative spots, I guess, are the negative versions of that. That's about all I know of ley lines. Other than they tend to build monuments and.
Well, Josh just posted a link, and I didn't get a chance to look at the whole thing, but it's even equating the ley lines to Stonehenge from what I can see.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. All these,
and they're actually, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're actually backing it all up, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they're
muted.
Very, very little.
Very little.
Yeah, very, very little. It's look. I'm sure that somehow for the Druids, these ley lines were absolutely real to them. Just like the belief that the ghosts would be lost during the next. You see that's one of the other topics that came up was the Total Happiness Program. And Roddy, you've never heard of the Total Happiness Program.
No, never heard of it.
And I'll tell you about it in just a minute. But where I'm trying to go with this is how susceptible a large number of people are to just about anything you want to put out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anybody heard of the? Go ahead.
A lot of it, in my opinion, Vic, and I hate to.
Oh, go ahead.
I just hate to say things like this, but a lot of it is just because people don't know how to think for themselves now.
Oh, they don't.
And so
they don't.
They're fed all these lies and they believe it because they don't want to research anything themselves. I mean, that's kind of like that's kind of like trying to tell me that ghost activity is even more because. What is it, Dave? The limestone is more active in this area. You know what? Don't feed me any crap. Give me facts. And a lot of people are buying into this garbage, and that's what it is.
Well,
that's actually why you could make millions. And Dave and I aren't joking around.
You
write that book.
Look,
man.
I have been aware. Okay, look, I'm not a dumbass. Okay,
No,
but I'm also not evil.
No.
And in order to do this kind of thing and to deliberately fool people, you have to be evil.
Evil, yeah. I agree with that.
So there was Roddy, and these guys have heard the story again, but guess what? It's the rundown, so they got to listen again.
That's right.
That's quite all right.
I had a friend in Houston whose name was, I call him Gage. Okay, Gage was a
interesting fella.
Probably the smartest person I've ever known. And he could vacillate between being one of the most moral people I've ever known and one of the most evil people I've ever known. Well, one day he got the idea that he was going to put ads in the back of magazines. You can remember when you would pick up a Sports Illustrated or a Field and Stream or Argosy or a lot of these magazines, there were ads in the back. So you could buy these little ads. And he put an ad in all these magazines saying something like, "All right, guys, I got the program. I've got the Total Happiness Program. You send me $45 or $50 or whatever, and I'll send you the Total Happiness Program, which will tell you exactly what you need to do to have total happiness in your life." Well, he thought maybe there'd be a dozen people who would write back to him wanting total happiness. And it turned out that hundreds, maybe thousands of people wrote back to him about wanting total happiness and would send him the most incredibly pathetic letters. Things like, "Oh, boy, I'm glad I met you. I don't only have total happiness. I don't have any happiness. My entire family has died of cancer, and my wife left me and took our kids who are also dying of cancer. And I just need somebody to tell me how to, get to where I have total happiness and a beautiful red-haired woman who'll be kind to me." Things that Gage could not possibly do. But just that offer in the back of, low-grade magazines was enough to make more than 1,000 people send him their money.
Yeah.
And of course, it would normally be, suckers, got money, how are they going to find me? I'm gone. They come after him and say, I didn't do the Total Happiness Program. But Gage was not that kind of person. Gage realized that he had done an evil thing and that he needed to make up for it. So Gage and myself and a couple of other friends, we spent the better part of a week writing back apology letters to these people and sending them their money back. Mm-hmm. But that's why I don't do things like the Great Coming Ghost Apocalypse, because the Ghost Magnetic Apocalypse, because people would buy it.
Oh yeah, they would. It kind of reminds me. Speaking of the old ads, you sparked a memory in me, and I'm fixing to. We're about to tell the whole world our age. Do you remember the old advertisement in the back of the magazines about? Oh man, remember the little skinny guy at the beach?
I do.
Yeah,
he's at the beach.
He got jacked up and then
he's at the beach,
and
he really does look pretty pathetic. And then some big old bruiser guy comes along and kicks sand in his face.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do about it, beanpole?
That's it. and then the guy gets jacked because of some kind of special something.
No. But the girls, the girls were on the beach going, he's a real loser. Yeah. And what he was doing, what'd you call it, Robbie? Dynamic tension, right?
Dynamic tension. It's isometrics where you
right.
hold them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're fighting against yourself.
Yeah, you're working against your own body. And it was Charles Atlas.
Yes.
Okay, but then that brings us to maybe one of the greatest movies of all time, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah.
My wife would agree with you on that.
Yeah. With Meatloaf?
Only my wife.
Yeah. And Meatloaf.
All right, this is going to be...
Meatloaf was in there, right?
Meatloaf was in there.
Yeah.
About Saturday night.
Yeah.
Let's see, you
dashboard or something.
You had your girl and you felt all right.
Yeah.
Things aren't the same since cosmic rights or something like that.
Yeah.
It was, and then they end up eating meatloaf.
Yeah.
Well,
Dave, don't do it, Dave.
Vic's
Watch
baiting
your words,
me. He
Vic.
knows I don't like
Watch
that
your
movie.
words. Oh.
Oh, you don't like meat? You don't like meatloaf?
No, I like Meatloaf. I don't like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
But your wife does.
Yes, she does. I watched it with her once.
How can you dress like Jerry Garcia and not like the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Was Jerry Garcia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
No.
No, he was anyone like Jerry Garcia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Well, no.
Well, I don't know. Some of the Richard O'Brien outfits weren't too far away.
No.
But all right, so when I was in my dating range and I would ask a girl out, the first place I would take her was the Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight to the Alabama Theater in Houston.
Oh, man.
And so I would take this girl to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and there'd be all the people throwing toast and doing all their crazy stuff up there. And if a girl, said, hey, that was kind of weird, but it was kind of fun, I'd ask her out again. If she, was poking me like, hey, can we please get out of here?
That was the end of that.
that was the end of that.
That would be like a girl telling me they don't like Rush. No. Get out of
my wife can't stand Rush.
Oh, man.
She cannot stand Geddy Lee's voice. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I still love her.
There you go.
So
she doesn't like the dead either, so I don't hold it against her.
Here's the thing about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I probably have seen it 100 times.
Wow.
but it was only when it came out on DVD that I could understand the dialogue. I had never heard the dialogue of the movie.
I still don't understand the dialogue of it. It's like trying to understand the wall. You got to be in a certain frame of mind, I guess, to understand it.
Yeah, but you could at least hear. You could at least hear the words. You could at least hear the words. When you're seeing it in the theater, it's too noisy.
Yeah, it's too many people doing their shtick. Some people would get up in front of the screen and act out the scenes dressed as characters.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is the rundown. This is fine.
We might well bring up Woodstock since we're going down the hole. I'm joking.
You didn't happen to be at Woodstock? No.
Well, I was born in '69, so I mean, it was during that year, Yeah.
Well, you weren't conceived in Woodstock, were you, Father Mike?
I might have been. It might be why I got such a great taste in music.
And you do. You do have good taste in music. I'm not sure about the whole movies thing, but music, you got that down.
All right, as a host, it's my job to make sure everybody's doing fine.
Roddy,
how you doing here?
I'm traumatized, but I'll get over it.
He's probably wondering what the heck did I get myself into with these.
It's more like, where have you guys been all my life?
We have another person who's generally part of the rundown. His name is JJ, and JJ is our Harvard religious scholar. He's on a death march for his job right now, so he's not here. But at some point, I'm thinking we're going to have JJ back. You'd enjoyed meeting him also. Dave, Father Mike, you guys doing okay?
Doing great.
Doing good. I am just... I went down a rabbit hole while y'all were talking music on this leylines.net site. There's all kinds of different... look, I have to say this about the Ley Lines.
Yeah?
There are people that take it serious. This is not just a scam, made-up type thing. And I can't find the specific... This leylines.net has got... you choose from a whole bunch of different methodologies for the ley lines to choose what's on this globe. It's this interactive globe. And it'll put the ley lines on it that you want. And then it'll show you significant points on the ley lines, which a bunch of them are in China, surprisingly. I didn't know that. But there are, from the New Age movement and a lot of people on that side of spirituality have done research on this stuff. There are connections with the ley lines that seem to make sense. And the reason I can't find the one that I was looking for is I know there's one there's supposed to be a convergence of ley lines in Sedona, in north of Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I've been there, and it's a very, very unique place. I've been there a couple times when I was younger, and then when I was in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. But there seem to be connections of these areas that have significant spiritual activity and these ley line maps and how they work. But I don't know what the methodology is behind it. I don't know what the theory is behind what makes a ley line. I'd have to research that. But I do know that there are people that have thought about it long and hard, and there are maps of them that will show these connections, that if you follow the lines... Now, are they taking a bunch of points and drawing lines through them? You could say that, but there seemed to be a method around the patterns that they put the lines on. It's not just a random scribbly of lines, that there's some sort of energy force behind it. And it may be that it is this, spiritual energy that we keep running up against on the rundown, where we don't know what the source of it is. We don't know the science behind it. This may be, when we look at magnetic lines, this may be the spiritual equivalent of that.
Well,
so back to my original question, which would be, what would be the interaction between that and the ley lines if the poles flipped?
It's possible that the whole network would shift if it's magnetic. If it's not, if it's because of something else, they may just be stable and not move at all. So I think until we kind of know what they are, because there does seem to be some research that suggests that there's something, at least something behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
and I think with a lot of things in the paranormal field, I think some of it's based on some kind of truth, but then the charlatans come in and totally ruin everything and start adding layers of things to these theories or these concepts, and just take it in weird directions. You know, like magnetic Ouija boards.
Well, it's kind of like
That was not a weird direction. I really like that.
Listen, I'm thinking about the magnetic Ouija board. We just got to figure out exactly what it's supposed to be doing, and then
What did you say, Father Mike?
well.
Sorry,
It
Vic,
kind
I
of
thought you were done.
it kind of reminds me of this. You know, like the under the crust of the earth, it's always changing, and but life keeps going on. I mean, we have major events under the crust of the earth that reshapes, reforms all the time. We just don't know it, but nothing really happens. However,
we don't know what's happening. I mean,
Exactly. But if you set off a nuclear bomb up under the crust of the earth, then you're going to have major events.
that's an interesting thought. I mean,
So-
there have been hundreds of
Maybe.
nuclear bombs
Yeah.
set up.
So if you things of the nature realm goes on all the time, relatively unaffected, unless you have some major earthquake and causes a tsunami. All right. But if something man-made, like the nuclear bomb goes off under there, you're going to create something. You're going to create such a shift that something under the ocean or on top of the Earth's crust, you're creating a major destructive moment that's going to change the way of life.
This is an
somehow.
interesting thought that take that a little bit sideways.
Yeah.
A nuclear explosion generates an EMP.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what the impact of that is, because it's it's not a small magnetic event. I wonder how that affects things magnetically around these islands where they did all these test explosions. Or in the case of, because they did the underground ones in Nevada, right, Vic?
Right.
Isn't that where they did?
Right.
Well, they did them mostly in Nevada. They did surface tests in Nevada. They did subterranean tests in Nevada.
And it just so happens that that's the greatest area of the San Andreas Fault.
I think so.
Well, that was there long before.
I know, but it's greater now than it was in the past.
We also don't know what
And expanded.
the
Well, there are two-
magnetism does for us or to us, and maybe by say putting exploding a nuclear bomb, how does that? It's going to change the magnetism. How is that going to change the people who live in the area? Not just like from radiation, but does the magnetic field change us, change our personality, affect our DNA, or affect some kind of spirit element that we're not quite we were aware of, but we don't quite understand. There's a lot that
Well,
we still need to learn.
there are two ways I look at that. First off, let's say that the biggest nuclear weapon ever detonated, not quite the right word, was what they call the Tsar Bomba. You guys know about the Tsar Bomba?
I do not.
No.
Okay. The Tsar Bomba was weapon made by the Soviet Union set off above ground on one of their islands up in the Northern Sea area. And it had a yield of between 50 and 100 megatons.
Wow.
Okay. So, largest weapon ever set off. Now, that will certainly cause 50 megatons is enough to cause some seismic activity that propagates for a long way. But still, in terms of, what does it do to the Earth permanently? It leaves a crater. Generally the Earth just doesn't care. It's,
It's the things living there that
care.
Yeah. The Earth itself, it's fine.
Something with a radius of or a diameter of 9,000 miles just doesn't care about something with a blast radius of 2 miles. Even at 50 megatons. But if this lattice of supernaturally charged or paranormally charged or naturally charged lines is altered, it does seem like these big underground tests would be able to do that. So this is the problem of the paranormal world. It's so difficult to do any meaningful research. Okay, so let's say that there was a nuclear test site under Nevada at Point X. Well, there's no data that you can go back and look at from 20 years before the test, and then look at data, several weeks after the test to see if things have changed.
And generally, they won't let you out there with your EMF meter.
No.
Your ghost box to see what the results are.
Well, see, I've already gone through this. I mean, there's a TTT episode about the Tunguska Event apparently causing paranormal changes throughout the world. I don't remember. I never can remember what these episodes are.
The Tungusta. That sounds familiar.
That was where they think a meteor came into the Earth in the wilderness of Russia and exploded from the friction before it actually hit.
It's the one that flattened all the trees.
Yeah, except in the center. Center, they stayed vertical. But as you got out from the explosion center, the trees just flattened out. And some people thought it was a nuclear bomb or a UFO exploded. Now they think, I guess from testing the soil, that it was a meteorite that was just large enough to get close to the Earth's surface before exploding, and then it was like, exploded.
I remember the pictures of that. It was like fields and fields of trees just
laid flat.
Yeah.
Not small trees either, big trees.
No, big trees, yeah.
What were the paranormal impacts of that, Vic?
I did all the research a long time ago for that particular episode, but I will look that up. I mean, but it was the people in the area saying that they suddenly were having visitations from dead family members. There being an increase in things like cryptid sightings.
Well, the paranormal aspect of it is it was unknown. It was all speculation at that time. Was it a explosion? Was it a meteor? Was it something? Nobody knows really, but there was enough, what's the word I'm looking for, effect to bring about these side effects from the effect of said explosion. I mean, number one, look at the physical landscape that took place. I mean, all these huge trees were all of a sudden just flattened. I remember the pictures, just like, Dave and I were talking about.
Yeah.
They were flat. Nothing else existed. Everything was laid down over. Now, something of that magnitude can't help but affect the psyche of a person, whether it be magnetic or I mean, I get
Let's think
it.
about the physical impact. So,
Oh, yeah, even the physical, yeah.
if a meteorite was to explode in the atmosphere that low,
That even has radiation going on there.
would there be some sort of magnetic pulse from that?
Of course it would be.
If there's one from a nuclear explosion, there would have to be one from that kind of explosion of a natural object. I think the area did show a lot of radiation, though I'm not certain of that.
So the idea would be that the force of the explosion was significant enough to create its own nuclear explosion?
I don't remember there ever being any kind of radiation aspect to this thing.
Well, it would bring about the equivalent of a nuclear explosion.
Sure,
Yeah, in
that's
force.
but
But a
that's
nuclear
like
explosion is
but-
releasing things when the split of the atom takes place.
Right.
That
when
aren't normal
when that
explosions.
meteor explodes in the atmosphere or by hitting the ground, it creates radiation in itself. Correct?
don't think so. There has to be a
Just,
radioactive.
just heat. Okay.
Yeah, well, energy equals 1/2 the mass times the square of the velocity. And so what you've got with something like Tunguska is something with a booty load of mass and then a lot of velocity coming in.
So same effect, same force, just not radiation.
Same effect, just not created through fission or fusion.
Right.
just-
through
yeah,
the-
it's
Well,
just-
so the megaton scale is like the equivalent amounts of exploded TNT.
Right.
Correct.
So that is just a pure force
Right.
explosion.
It doesn't matter where the force comes from. It could come from atoms being split, which releases tremendous amount of energy, or it could be from just a big stinking rock.
So said energy that comes from the explosion of the meteor, that would not create
Nope.
radiation.
Shouldn't
of
create
some kind.
radiation.
Nope,
Now, the
it-
question about the magnetism would be, would the composition of the meteor potentially create some
Sure.
sort of magnetic
Right.
discharge?
Yeah.
The equivalency of said radiation, though.
Well, I mean, it's just you don't. The thing is, though, to get ionizing radiation,
My mind.
huh?
I just my mind's thinking too much.
To get
I can't handle it.
to get ionizing.
Sorry, big.
If you go to a nuclear plant, okay, and put yourself someplace where you shouldn't be, which they're generally going to try to keep you from doing, you're going to run into what's called ionizing radiation. And that's the radiation that destroys your DNA. That's the radiation that happens with a nuclear blast. Okay, it's a gamma ray type radiation. That's releasing massive amounts of energy. But you can get that much energy other ways. And that's just a matter of standard mechanical Newtonian physics. Nothing, just it's a great book called Lucifer's Hammer, and they're talking about this comet coming in, and they're saying, well, does it matter what it's made of? And this guy from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory says, it can be made out of ice cream sundae. Doesn't matter. You throw enough of X at anything, you're going to get that energy.
Is that a Larry Niven story?
Yes, sir, it is. That's one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Not very politically correct, but can we take advantage of the fact that we have a movie aficionado with us and get him to talk about some really bad movies? Or is that being unfair, Roddy?
I would like to know his favorite.
Yeah, because my memory is weirdly selective, so I can remember seeing some movies, but not necessarily the plots. I can remember seeing some bad movies.
Me too.
Like Candy. We saw Candy. We were on a Ringo Starr kick for a while, watching all the Ringo Starr movies. And one movie was...
I didn't... Wait. I didn't even know there were Ringo Starr movies.
Yeah, he was in Candy. Oh, see, now I can't remember.
Isn't there a Ringo Starr... All right, there is a memory popping up.
It's called The Point.
Yeah,
narrated by Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
That's the only movie I know of that Ringo Starr is in, so I'm not aware of the others.
That's Harry.
That's animated. That's
That's Harry Nielsen, right? Harry Nielsen.
Yeah, Harry Nielsen. Yeah.
You know, me and my arrow.
That's it. Yep.
Wherever we go.
Yep.
Yeah, I love The Point, but I didn't know Ringo Starr narrated that.
Yes.
Isn't there a Ringo Starr movie where somebody with extreme wealth...
Magic question. Peter Sellers.
Okay, he knows where I'm going.
Yeah, know exactly where you're going.
Okay, so for the audience, someone with extreme wealth places a huge amount of cash money in a place where one has to humiliate oneself to get the money. That was really well done, Dave. You got to admit.
That was well done, Vic.
That's well done.
Very proud of you. I don't have to edit that one out.
He threw money in a big vat of manure, and people just
just jump right in.
Well, did George Harrison ever do anything?
I don't know.
We
didn't do a George Harrison retrospect.
I don't know. I mean, George was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think he was quite as cool as Ringo.
Yes, Ringo is my favorite Beatle. I know most people seem to love either Paul or John.
No. I would go.
Ringo's
I would rank them Ringo, George, Paul, John.
Yeah.
And I personally really dislike John.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I wonder how many fans out there you just offended.
Just got rid of that. They can write to us and tell us that we're horrible. Or me. No, it's not these guys. It's just me. Okay? I'm the only...
Well, I don't
Get
care.
boycott Vic emails.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to get to... I'm not even going to start on Yoko Ono. Shut up, Mike.
Ooh.
Sometime in late 2010, Vic Hermanson recorded a short performance by Yoko Ono at the Museum of Modern Art, using a small audio recorder with an integrated microphone. We used that recording at the Dankworth Smythe household to limit the proliferation of satanic mind worms. Even they find it extremely problematic. This composition has a name, Voice Piece for Soprano and Wish Tree. Listen to the majesty that Vic recorded that day.
Dang, Vic. Listen, I'm starting. Hey, Vic, now listen. I'm starting to worry. I don't think you're, completely aware of the bylaws of the Paranormal Rundown and Trailer Trash Terrors. Rule number 3. Thou shalt not audibly damage the audience. Respect your audience, Vic. Like, I mean, I don't even know how many demerits you're going to get for this. You're somewhere around, what was it, 2 million? It's going to be a pretty hefty increase. Okay, Vic, listen. Here's the rule. Unless you are interested in a trip to perdition, then you better stop that Yoko Ono. Well, I'll tell you what, though. One of these days, Yoko Ono's going to need a trip. I may apply, for that particular privilege. And on that day, I'll tell you one dang thing. I'm going to put some soundproofing in that 67 Chevy pickup. I'm going to play that Hank Williams extra loud. That's for sure. Well, all right, Vic. Now, come on, be a good boy. What do you say?
Well, Roddy, what is your favorite horrible paranormal movie?
Favorite horrible?
Like just the absolute worst. What, the worst you've seen, you'll love to hate it, kind of. It was so bad, it was almost entertaining, paranormal horror type movie.
It's a movie, The Haunting of Something House. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. And it was filmed very low budget. And it had weird special effects. The acting was terrible. I don't even remember the actors in it. There were no names. And yet the special effects were weird. And the way it was filmed, you got this very bizarre, no, it wasn't House on Haunted Hill. You got a very bizarre feeling of isolation because these people were trapped in the house and the ghost wouldn't let them out. And they tried to sort of leave by walking down the various paths because the house was in the woods somewhere. And they tried to leave and go in different places to get out, and they kept coming back to the house.
Is that the one where they had to be back at the house at a certain time too? Or
I don't remember.
Something would happen to.
Yes, again, it's if I could remember the name of the movie and just look at it and refresh my mind. But it was very creepy and weird. Another movie I really love.
Could it be called The Haunting of Hill House?
It was a low budget movie, very low budget, filmed not in Hollywood, but somewhere else.
Is this an older movie?
Yeah, it's an old movie in the late 60s.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't.
And it was really creepy. Another movie that scares me still. I love it, and it's kind of cheesy, is Carnival of Souls. And that would have to be my favorite B movie, too. Because, it's about a girl who she's with friends, and they're drag racing across a bridge with some guys. Car goes off, and everybody dies. She comes out of the water. She's a church organist. She's taking a trip. She's taking a job in another town. So she goes there. And she keeps seeing this guy with this ghostly white face and sort of black ribbed eyes. And every once in a while, she it's like all sound stops, and no one can see her or hear her. She can't hear anything, and and then suddenly the sound will come back, and and it's almost like she sort of phased out of reality or something like that.
Is she kind of walking toward hell or something? Is that the idea?
Well, no, what it is that at the end of the movie, you find out that she didn't realize she died in the car accident. Because when they finally pull the car, the events of this take place over a short number of days. But when they finally pull the car out of the river with all the dead girls in it, you see she's in there. And there's just some weird scenes where, like, she goes to this carnival that's been closed down, or amusement park, and all these sort of dead people are dancing around, and then they start chasing her. And it's very moody and weird and creepy, badly acted.
That's always a plus.
It's always a plus. And yet it's a lot of fun to watch because it still gives me the creeps. And very few movies nowadays, especially horror movies, they're more about jump scares and throwing guts around. But this one did a lot with mood. For me, that's my favorite kind of movie, where they create a mood that sticks with you.
I'm trying to remember the last time I was really frightened by a movie. And because, man, it's been years and years. And I think that it was two movies that I saw on cable. I mean, look, dating myself, I can remember when cable first became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You had your 3 local channels. You had maybe 5 or 6 UHF channels. That's all you had. And then suddenly you got cable. And you got, 150 channels. You've got the old ESPN, you've got the old MTV that never played rap and actually spent most of their time playing music.
Yeah.
And then you had, HBO or something like that. And they hadn't quite figured out, how to take advantage of this media power at the time. So there were some very strange movies that they would show on cable. And one of them was called Death Game. Anybody remember Death Game?
Oh, I think I remember that. That was like late 70s?
Yes.
Early 80s-ish?
Sandra Locke and some, I don't know, beautiful brunette girl. Because, look, Sandra Locke she's in movies, but you wouldn't really call her beautiful. But the movie is that these two girls ask an architect for help and then take over his life. And I guess what was so scary about it was just how casually they did all these horrible things. I mean, they drowned the pizza delivery boy in the aquarium. Look, that's cold, man. You shouldn't be drowning pizza delivery boys.
No.
And plus, it's not good for the fish. And anyway, I can remember watching that movie. And for some reason, I was on a security kick at the time. And so where I lived, I had bought this, I don't know, infrared, hypersonic motion detector kind of thing. And it set it up to where I was waiting for, some motion. I didn't want to be robbed, didn't want to be broken into. This thing goes off like at about 3:30 in the morning after I had watched Death Game and was all, on edge anyway. My God, I thought I was going to die of some kind of hemorrhage or heart attack or stroke or something. So, Dave, do you remember the Death Game movie? Or
Yeah, vaguely. I looked it up. The actor in it was Seymour Cassel.
Yeah, the famous Seymour Cassel.
And, do you remember who he is?
No.
I just recognize his face. He was in a bunch of stuff. And so I remember it from him. But
he was the architect that had been attacked.
I think they did a similar movie to this not too long ago.
They did with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. And that was
it blows.
The same kind of plot. I haven't watched it, so
it's not a very good movie at all. But then there was a movie that they played on cable right about then. They also played a lot of softcore porn, like on HBO. Young Lady Chatterley and things like this. It was,
Skinamax and
cheesy softcore porn. But the movie was called The Funhouse by Tobe Hooper.
Who will dare to face the challenge of the Funhouse? Who is mad enough to enter that world of darkness?
Something is alive in the funhouse. Something not alive like its father. Something better dead. Something that has the form of a human, but not the face.
This better be good.
It's gonna be great. Something that feeds off the flesh and blood of young innocents.
Come on, here we go. This is it.
Something that tonight will turn the funhouse into a carnival of terror.
And man, that movie scared the living snot out of me. Anybody remember The Funhouse?
I don't remember that one. But, I could not watch scary movies when I was young. A lot of that stuff freaked me out. I didn't enjoy horror movies until I was, in my 40s. So
I loved horror movies. I would usually like Friday or Saturday night, they'd show a horror movie, Saturday afternoon. And I can remember I'd be watching something I was enraptured and just caught up in it. And then my mom would come in and she'd stop and look at the TV. She says, are you scared? And I go, no, I'm not scared. She's, all right, go on to the hall, turn around 3 times and say raw head and bloody bones.
Whoa. Okay, raw head and bloody bones.
Right. I'm like,
okay.
What? She says, because you'll see something. What do I see? She says, well, go do it and see. No. Well, then change the...
Well, okay.
I think that's an old Irish thing, but raw head and bloody bones. And I didn't even, the words themselves didn't even register with me until like years later. But apparently if you turn around 3 times, it's almost like, you stare into the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times. It's that kind of thing. But that was how she determined if I was too scared to watch something. Even though she herself would sometimes watch scary movies and get spooked. But I can remember the last movie that really scared me was The Exorcist.
Oh, The Exorcist is a damn scary movie.
Yeah, and I was in college, and at the time I was questioning whether my faith, whether I wanted to be Christian or Roman Catholic and stuff. And we went to see that movie, and that terrified me. That just scared the hell out of me. And it took a while for me to sort of come down from that. And I only seen it once, and for me, that's enough.
I've watched them all.
You've only
except
seen
the last one.
You've only seen it one time.
Yeah, I've only seen it. The other ones pale by comparison.
Oh, they definitely do.
Well,
yeah, terribly.
2 is terrible.
Yeah.
3 is actually pretty good.
3 is tolerable.
Yeah.
The one that takes place in the desert, one of the latest ones that is supposed to be the beginning of it all. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I like that one.
But the last one, I didn't even watch it. I watched about 5 minutes of it and said, this is going to be cheesy, and cut it off.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for one of those nights where I just absolutely can't find anything else to watch.
Then I'll watch that. Yeah, but it just...
I don't think you can ever have another thing like The Exorcist. I mean, there were
it really
lots of things
scared me that bad. I enjoyed it, but that's just...
Well, I enjoyed the movie too. I got to agree with you, but there was a feel to it. So first off, what was the name of the actor who played
Reagan? Or
no? Let's see. Karras was the
older priest.
Was the older priest?
Yeah,
and then
Damon.
No, Marin was the older priest. Karras was the younger.
Marin was the older priest. Karras was the younger priest. Okay, the guy who plays Karras, he lobbied for that role. I mean, he really, really wanted that role.
Jason Miller.
And his look is just perfect for it. I mean, I can't imagine anyone else being that priest. He just the look he has. And then Ellen Burstyn similarly lobbied for the role of Reagan's mother.
Wow.
And Mercedes McCambridge was the voice of the demon. And there was a lot of kerfuffle about that, as she was. I mean, she had kind of a gravelly voice anyway, but she got the role, and then devoted herself to smoking and drinking whiskey for weeks and weeks before, just to get her voice as gravelly as she could possibly get it.
Well, that's what she tells a therapist.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, since we're on the subject, Vic, have you yet to check out the series that Dave and I were telling you about?
No, I have not. Isn't it on Netflix or something?
I
don't have Netflix.
I think it may be on Hulu as well.
Oh, okay.
But we'll send it to you.
We'll figure out some way to watch it, but if it's on Netflix, I don't have Netflix. But anyway, I can just remember. I don't know. There was a feel in that movie that I found horrifying. Like when she's talking to the astronaut and she says, "You're going to die up there," and then she whizzes on the $20,000 Turkish rug.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean that was pretty scary. Anyway, can I tell you about the Funhouse?
Sure. And then let's grab one more topic before we wrap it up, if we can.
Yeah, we're almost at the 2-hour mark, so I'm getting weak.
You're getting weak. Well, then I'll save the Funhouse for some other time, or I'll have Avalon talk about that.
Right.
Let's grab one more topic. Father Mike, or whoever wishes to choose. Let's see.
While you're pulling that, Roddy, have you ever had any personal paranormal unexplained experiences?
Usually I see shadow people or shadow things.
Well, it just rolls right off the tongue. Usually I only see shadow people. That's not an everyday thing for most people. Know.
Wait a minute. Why grab?
That's a good. we don't need another topic.
Well, why grab another topic? I mean,
when I was about 6 years old, since as long as I can remember, I always got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and my dad would too, and I would always wait for him to get up because nighttime, it's a scary place.
Yeah.
So my bedroom was across from the bathroom, the bedroom door. And because we had no door, my mom would hang a sheet over there. And one night, I hear my dad get up and go into the bathroom, turns the light on, and the light, shines through. And I go to get up, and suddenly this 3-dimensional shadow thing sort of leans in. And even though it had no face, I knew it was looking at me. And it seemed to be carrying some kind of long object. I don't know if it was a stick or
maybe a sigh.
Something long, maybe a flintlock or something. And it also had the kind of hat.
I'm going with sigh.
Oh, no. So it was a hat. So we're not just talking about a shadow. We're talking about a hat man experience.
An armed hat man.
Yes. And then it was looking at me, and then I can hear my dad peeing. And then he finished. He's clearing his throat, and he finished. You hear the toilet flush, and as the toilet flushes, this thing leans out from the doorway. Because I only saw him from like the waist up, and it was just like was like if he would lean into a door, to look into a room. And for years, I convinced myself that even though, in order for my dad's shadow to be cast that way, and even though if he did, it would have been on the wall, and for him to stand in front of the light, he'd have to be 4 feet from the toilet and pee into it from there.
That's really good aim.
Exactly.
And good velocity.
Yes.
That's defying physics.
I just brushed it away and just buried the memory. And then driving home, like 30 years later, I was listening to Art Bell, and he was having a thing on about shadow people. And as soon as I would hear people talk about it, that whole memory came rushing back to me. And I had to pull over and just sit for a second because it just upset me so. Mm-hmm. And then since then, there was a time I lived by a highway, and on the other side of the highway was a big hospital. This was in Allentown. And my hallway near the bedroom would face north. And quite often I would see, again, shadow people walking down the hallway as if they were going to wherever. I mean, I don't know if they were people who had died and they were walking towards heaven or the light or whatever, but I would see it, and usually it's out of the corner of my eye. But I've also been walking into a room and I would see a shadow that I would think is my cat sort of walk past me like it was getting out of my way. And then I would look around and there's nothing there. And I've even recently, I think maybe a month or so ago, I would see, you'd have the evening light, the light on at night, and there'd be something hanging on the wall, like my coat rack. And I would see a shadow about the size of a rat detach itself, move, and then go back into a shadow again. So I don't know what they are. I don't know. Except for the first time, I don't feel threatened by them or frightened. It's just weird. It's weird to see. It's different if you catch it out of the corner of your eye. You can convince yourself
that it didn't happen, right?
But when you're actually seeing it, and they're odd shapes sometimes, a regular shape. So it's not shaped like a rat or a cat. It's just this black shadow, and they can be any size from man size, cat size, rat size. And it's just the weirdest thing, and I don't know how to explain it.
How often does this happen?
It can happen frequently for a while. Like when I was near the hospital, it happened all the time. Here, it doesn't happen much, like a couple of times a year. And I haven't been able, it's so infrequent, I haven't been able to figure out a pattern. If there's something going on in my life that's causing me to see these things, or if there's something going on in the world, time of year, it's so infrequent. And then when it happens, I'm kind of like, it takes me aback a bit. And you don't think to figure out what the pattern may be. It just happens. Right. And I just accept it. Like, okay.
Well, there doesn't sound like there's any way to predict any of this at all.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to predict.
Well, you would have to log it, right? You'd have to keep a log of it and see if there's any pattern to it, right? Is there any, high stress, or is it time of the year, or some other type of, event that seems to precede it? Okay. But so how old were you when you saw the first one?
I was 5 or 6.
Because you were young. And that one, was there a menacing to it, or did it just freak you out?
So, and it felt menacing only because it was strange. I don't know if the thing itself was menacing, but when you're like 6 years old and you're already scared of the dark, and you see something that's not a shadow, but an actual physical thing with no features in it, and you can tell it's looking at you, even though it has no face, that creeps you out.
Well, let me ask you a question. You kind of intrigued me or sparked my interest. You said that in one of the, I'll just use the term visions, you saw a group of people walking. You didn't know but here's the question. When you saw the group of the people, what was your environment at that time? Were you near let's say a cemetery, or near like a funeral home, or near a hospital, near a place of death?
Yeah, I was near a hospital.
Okay.
And it wasn't always, sometimes it would be 2 or 3, sometimes 1. And I took out a compass actually and measured, because I heard some cultures, north is where the dead people go. So I was wondering if that had something to do with it. But it would be like seeing someone walk down I'd be laying in bed and somebody walking down the hall, but they'd be all black, and I'd see them. It's not like I said, in the corner of your eye, something happens, and you turn your head and you see it's not what you thought it was. This I could see the people walking.
And did you live on the first floor?
Second floor.
Second floor. And they walked down the hall. So that's...
Yeah, it was like they're walking down the hall. We also lived near a transformer, and the room closest to the transformer always had this odd uneasiness to it. I tried having my art studio there, and I just could not create because everything was so. It just
EMF will do that.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about EMF earlier. Yeah. EMF will, high amounts of it, and I don't even mean that high. I mean, if there is EMF that's like 7 or above in the milligauss range, my back starts to hurt. I'll feel it, and you can obviously get much higher than that if you've got electrical nearby. So it'll definitely affect you. It'll change the whole feeling of an area that happens.
And some people think that also fuels paranormal activity too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe that's one reason why they chose, because the transformer was the height of the second floor apartment, and then next to that was this highway, really fast moving things. Cars, and then like I said, it's a big hospital. It was Lehigh Valley Health Network Hospital, which is it's an enormous place, and I'm sure.
Fascinating. The fascinating thing about that is that it's not like they're just walking along, following the land or whatever. You're on the second floor, and they're walking down the hallway. So they are recognizing the structure of the building and holding themselves to it. So that is an interesting aspect of it.
And a relatively mundane kind of structure.
Well, the first Shadow Man I saw, he leaned in from the doorway. And it's almost like you could see he was like holding on to with one hand that was behind the doorway and leaning in. So he was respecting the doorway. It wasn't like he was leaning in through a solid wall. So there's some weird things.
Have you ever had any direct interaction with these things?
That's what I was going to ask.
No, it's almost like some veil is lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And for a moment, I can see something. So that's why I sometimes wonder if it's coming from me, because I suffer from insomnia, and
I don't think. Let me put it this way. I believe, just in our conversation today, okay, just hearing you, I believe that at heart, soul and spirit, that you're a good man, and that you have a gift, what I will call a gift of caring.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? You care. I think that you genuinely care about people. And
unless I'm driving.
Well,
yeah, all bets are off. That's fair.
That would be like me driving in Atlanta. Don't even ask Josh what I would be like. No, we don't even want to go there. But I believe you have a real gift of caring about people, and I believe that I'm not going to discount what you see, especially when you see. That's why I asked, were you around hospitals or places of death? Not that you were seeing the negative side of death, so to speak, and you're seeing all the negativity of it. Am I making sense, Dave?
Oh yeah.
At all? And what I believe that you were seeing is that you were, I believe personally, that some people can see people when they leave this world going to the next. And sometimes I believe that certain people have been given certain gifts, so to speak. And it's up to us to find out what that gift is. And I believe that you were probably given the gift by God to say, it's okay to move on.
Mm.
This is the path. continue on. You're doing good.
Yeah.
Just to give kind of like a final encouragement, it's okay to leave. Kind of like, I hesitate to say it because I don't want to equate it to a last right thing, but just it's okay.
It's a noting.
You can go now.
Yeah, it's a noting of their passing, and
I call it a noting of them as a being, like a final respect thing, acknowledgement thing. Yeah,
which is what, like, my wife, for like 9 years, we took care of her elderly parents, and they passed. But we've been in a lot of nursing homes.
Oh yeah,
hospitals for the old, and so many people are just. They feel invisible because they're kind of ignored. So my wife would go in and would talk to them, make them feel like at least they were still alive in some way. And it's got to be a difficult time for them. And you feel for them. So we try to.
You do because if you think about it, you say something that's near and dear to my heart is. They feel like they're nothing. A lot of people in that, they feel like they're nothing, and then when they're dead, they feel like they're nothing. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
I believe needs an acknowledgement. An acknowledgement. If you move on, you can be at a better place,
right?
To where you're not ignored all the time now,
right?
Go
to
into this blessed place, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, did seeing the shadow figures at the hospital, where you live near the hospital, did that start up before or after you listened to that Art Bell episode and had the memory of the childhood?
Long after.
Well after?
And I think by finally having a name for it and listening to positive and negative people's experiences with it, it became less fearful. Because it wasn't something unusual or weird. It was something, like was said, a gift given to me that I could see these. So I can't always do it. I don't know if I can control it or not, but when it happens, it happens. So I try not to be, with paranormal stuff, I try not to be fearful of it. And because it's a new experience, you don't know. So we often fear the unknown, but some people kind of like the unknown because it's like my personality is, I always want to see what's over the horizon. I always want to see what's around the corner. I want to expand who and what I am and my experiences to some extent. Some experiences are like, I have a feeling that's going to lead me down the wrong path. So it may or may not, I don't know, but I just don't want to risk that. But others are willing to explore and try and control. If I do feel fear, try and control that and say, this is just new, don't panic or run away from it. Something.
Shadow figures are a fascinating thing because they're definitely associated with people who have demonic oppression, who have experiences like that. But those shadow figures, you feel, sort of hatred and menacing coming off of them.
Right.
So there's a difference between feeling fear from something you see and feeling fear from your reaction to it. And most of the times it's best if you control your own fears, the reaction to it, because most of the time this stuff isn't harmful.
Right.
If you feel something coming from it, when I had experiences with that, with the demonic, that shadow figure in the corner of my room it radiated hatred. It did not want me to even exist. That's different. That wasn't coming from me.
I've been driving down the road, and like I said, sometimes if you cross a river or a bridge, suddenly the whole sense or feeling changes, and you just, this area is not good. And there have been times I've actually turned my car around and drove out, because whatever's there, good or, whether it's a feeling, whether it's my imagination, it's like, I just need to step away from this so it doesn't influence me.
Yeah.
Well, and one other thought before I forget it. You talk about seeing them out of the corner of your eye. So
sometimes
right. But when we investigate at night and we're looking for shadows in hallways in dark buildings, we never look straight down the hallway,
right?
Because those rods are in the outside of your eyes. And tell me if I get that wrong, Rick, right? It's the cones are in the middle. They see the color. The rods see the black and white. They're on the edges. Did I get it right, Vic?
I'm going to go with that because I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. I think the cones are the color.
To explain it in layman's terms, Dave, it's kind of like at night, if you're trying to walk in the dark, so to speak, not and not wake your wife up. If you look straight at something, you can't really see it. But if you look to the side of it, then you can see the object that you're wanting to head toward.
And that's not a mental thing. That is the physical way your eyes made up.
Right.
Exactly.
If you're trying to see something really faint in a telescope, you kind of turn your head a little bit. And you look through the eyepiece with your peripheral vision.
Exactly.
Then you can see it much better then.
So one thing you might do is if you see something out of the corner of your eye like that, instead of looking straight at it, keep your head turned and see if you can focus on it that way, instead of that automatic reaction of, looking straight at it.
If I do look at them, I can still see them. See, that's the thing.
Well, right. Well, you're saying sometimes you look and then you don't see them.
And sometimes I just notice it out of the corner of my eye, and as I look, I can see. It's almost like, especially with the smaller ones, and then sometimes they're on the wall, on the floor, but the smaller ones, as I see them move out, like sort of break away from the shadow and become a solitary shadow, if I look at it, it immediately moves back in. It's almost like the cones in the eye and my focus signal that it's been seen, and it goes back to hiding.
Right.
And just a curious thing. It's like, oh, okay, it happens.
Well, it doesn't.
Cool.
It doesn't happen to me. I've
yet.
I've never seen one of these things. One of the more, Dave, when you were dealing with what you call that shadow figure, if the UPS guy came to the door, would he see it?
No.
Only if he came to the door between about 3 and 6 a.m.
Oh, okay.
My wife never saw it. And she could tell that there was something there. She could feel that it was off. But she could never physically see it.
Okay.
And I believe there were a couple of times where she was awake and I asked her if she could see it. I mean, this thing for about 6 months was in the corner of our bedroom every night. It would show up at 3:30, and it would hang out there and glare at me until 5 or 6. And then it would just fade away.
I would say, Dave, and you'll probably agree, is the way that this, let's just call it an entity, okay, is being approached. You had your experience. Well, let's take it a step further. I'm going to come in and I'm going to provoke it. Right? Just like we were on the House of the Hill. And that thing slaps the
snot out of you, right?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. And scratches my face. And say, Josh even saw that. So I would say it's probably on the level of the way that you're approaching it or confronting it or dealing with it. But then again, I also believe that there's other, let's just call them spirits out there.
Oh yeah,
that are just on their way and they just need encouraging.
No, this thing was clearly demonic. There was no
you and I
question.
both were dealing with something demonic in our time.
I mean, in my case, it attached to me from somebody who was dealing with something demonic.
Right.
It was demonic from the beginning. It was demonic until the end.
And came home with
you. I never confronted it while it was sitting in the corner of the room directly. Yeah. You know, I said prayers and stuff like that. But that was, I know a lot more now than I did then.
Roddy, what I was talking about is I was confronting a demonic presence one time, and it literally physically attacked me to the point of slapping me in the face, and I had a 3-day headache.
What?
No,
Josh?
It was about a 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days. I mean, terrible headache, constantly. Yeah. And it just really. So I know what Dave's talking about.
Yeah,
and I can hear you too. There's different levels of our dealings with these type things, and I'm glad you brought that up because what I believe what you're saying is near and dear to my heart as well. Some people need a final recognition and a blessing to go on.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what all these things are. There are clearly some that are demonic, and that's that's its own category of thing. But there are a lot of people who see and have. I've heard many experiences just like yours, Roddy, where people talk about seeing little short figures. Right? They're shadow figures, but they're like literally a little, like you say, a little taller than a cat, little gnome-like figures or whatever. See them that are in different shapes, different sizes, ceiling, wall, floor, But most of those type of experiences don't have that negative connotation with them. There isn't that menace, that hatred, that whatever. They're just like, and sometimes, some people will have these experiences their entire life with the same one. It's like it just pops in and out of their life every now and then, looks around a corner, checks them out, disappears, it's back a couple months later. So it's
one of the more fascinating YouTube videos I've ever seen was taken in some country in South America, not sophisticated at all. It's a channel, the guy is mostly showing things like him racing his little model cars, little RC cars. Well, in this one video taken by his wife, he's standing next to a corner, and there is, in that corner, a shadow figure, roughly cylindrical in shape, maybe 16 inches tall, as big around as, a large glass. And you can very definitely see it. The room has bright lighting. It's daytime. The window's open. And you can see this man sitting here looking at this persistent shadow figure and kicking it, which was the most amazing thing to me. I mean,
kicked it?
He's actually kicking at this, you can't be here. Go away.
Did it react?
No. Well, it would move around a little bit in its kind of amorphous edges, but it didn't really react very much at all.
So it didn't go flying like a
no. But he's kicking at this shadow figure, and you can see where his foot gets a little bit darker as he's entering the space where the shadow figure exists. It's such a weird video in that
you have to send me that link.
Well, I got to find it.
We got to find it. We'll put it out. We'll throw it out on X.
Yeah, I got to find it. But the thing that's so amazing to me about it is, look, it's clear that this guy is not a video whiz. I don't doubt if he would be able to fake this particular video. But the shadow figure just seems kind of like, well, I'm staying.
Yeah. Shadow figure's like, missed me.
Miss me.
I got a story for you guys.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have to back away.
Well, we'll stop it after the story.
And I think Roddy will really enjoy this. As you two guys know, I've had 3 strokes.
Yes. And
thankfully, I think I turned out pretty doggone well after them.
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm.
The last one, the middle one, and the last one, I got stories, but I'll share the last one with Roddy and you guys today. Probably already told you guys about it, but while I was in the ER, the door was closed. My wife and I were sitting in there, and actually even my bishop came to see me. And they thought I was out of it. I was not out of it. I knew exactly what I was seeing. And outside the door, there was these demonic entities looking in through the window of the door, just laughing at me.
That long, tall window they have.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly right. And I could see the glass inside the nurse's station where they were looking at all the monitors and stuff like that. And they were in there just laughing and, just laughing at me. And I'm getting angry. But every now and then I'm seeing people just walk by. But they weren't people. They were just walking by. And when I would see these shadow figures that Ray's talking about walking by, then I would automatically see the demonic side of it laughing at me. And I said, okay. I got it. I know what's going on. And I'm thinking about this in my head while they think I'm freaking out. And
why did they think you were freaking out?
Because I was telling them what I'm seeing. They're laughing at me out there. They're making fun of me.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm seeing lost out there. I'm seeing grief out there.
Huh.
And then finally I just said, okay, enough. I'm laying on the bed, and so I just sit up, and I make the motion like this to everyone outside that door, and say, I release you. It's okay to go to your Father of Lights. You're respected. You're honored. It's time to go.
Mm.
They disappear. Everything goes away.
Wow.
Huh.
Well, I can't imagine why there would be a bunch of demonic entities hanging outside of your hospital room door after 20-some plus years of exorcisms, Father Mike.
I don't know.
Seems really odd that they would mock you after that.
Yeah, I know, right? But I just wanted to reinforce what Roddy was saying and say, we get you, man. We understand what you're talking about.
Good. Thanks. And it would make sense they'd be at a hospital because there's so much emotion there that they would probably feed off of. And, people are weak, easy to try and attach to them, although they probably wouldn't if someone's on their way out. But yeah, I mean, I know there's stuff that's odd and unusual and weird. And I know there's stuff that's demonic, and I really try to avoid that at all costs. My father warned me about using Ouija boards. He said, don't even go near that. Don't do it. Because you open yourself up in ways you don't understand, and you allow things in without actually realizing it. And just anything that smacks. I don't even like to listen to podcasts that have stuff about demonic possession and stuff, because I just know it might, just in case it puts me in a weird mindset and leaves me open to whatever.
Well, I mean, look, I love any kind of exorcist-like possession, oppression, horror movie. I love them. But if you watch enough of them late at night in the dark, you can put yourself in a mindset where stuff will start happening, right? And
exactly.
You become fearful, and that fear is sort of like opening a door.
Yeah. Opening a door.
You know,
in
so
fact,
I totally get it.
I think when they were filming The Exorcist,
all kinds of strange.
Have all sorts of weird things
possessions going on. Yeah.
And all sorts of weird things happening on set. And I think they even had a priest on there because I think Mercedes McCambridge was like, "Hey, am I okay saying this? Because some of the stuff I'm saying is horrible." Mm-hmm. And I think, they were very careful making that movie in many ways, which I think is why it rings so true and just really offsets you. Anybody, will offset me anyway.
There's two movies that I always said were very real that we really need to pay attention to, although Hollywood really dramatized it. Yeah. Number one was The Exorcist. I would encourage everyone to look up the real story of the boy that the book and all was made after. Number two, Amityville Horror. There you have two real experiences. Number one, of the possession of a person.
Right.
Number two, one of a place or region.
Right.
And both are very real and nothing to be overlooked or messed around with.
Right.
And
I'm a big fan of The Rite. That's
The Rite is freaking awesome and very realistic.
And I just read that book. That book is very good. Now,
yeah.
It doesn't have the horror ending. It is not the same story, but it's the story of the priest who did go and study there.
It reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of the accounts of Malachi Martin in Hostage of the Devil. And with that being said, I think on April 26th I'm going to restart the classes, and we'll send Roddy a Zoom invite as well, and if he wants to join in. And these classes, they're nothing more than equipping people with knowledge and defense. Mm-hmm. So they're real good. They're real interesting and quite entertaining at sometimes too, because we take an approach of it where we're not taking things lightly. We're exposing them, but we want it to be not a lawful practice, but a what's the word I'm looking for, Dave? How would you explain those classes there?
Well, they're educational on the entire, every aspect of dealing with the demonic.
Yeah, but it's not a hardcore. It's a lighthearted approach to make everyone feel at ease and not instill fear, but instill knowledge.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the new one. Because all the work you and JJ have put on it, I know
we've done a lot.
The structure's great,
and Josh and I have done a lot. And I'm going to be introducing a whole nother aspect too about the sacramentals and or holy objects, like the crucifix that's above your head. Why is that important? And and also to expose the stigma. You got a lot of people out there today like, why do you still have Jesus on the cross? Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm glad he didn't come down. Because what if he would have? If you are the Christ, save yourself. Come down from the cross. I'm glad he stayed. How about that point? So I just took it a whole new. I'm sorry, Vic. I took the rundown in a whole new.
No. That's a fair
who
question.
We are, though. Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea was it was necessary for that act to be completed.
Exactly. It is finished. Yeah.
So
you're right.
It is finished.
You're right.
All right, gentlemen. We've gone a little over 2 hours. Roddy, you've been a fantastic guest.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I hope you've had a good time.
Great.
And Father Mike, go get some rest. Dave, good to see you. And anybody have anything they need to say before we end this rundown?
No, I'm just glad that Roddy got to see who we really are, and his next visit will be even better.
Can't wait.
Roddy, it was great meeting you.
Good meeting you guys too. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Roddy, thanks a whole bunch.
No problem. Anytime.
Take care, bud.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Okay.
Take care, bud.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. This is David Griffith. I have failed miserably on this episode to hold up my responsibilities. Aside from keeping count of the episodes and trying to keep Father Mike and Vic in line when it comes to topics, I also usually ask our guests exactly where people should find them. In this case, I held up the first two, but failed on the third. So I would like to say that you can find Roddy at the Destination Nightmare podcast. So you can find them online at bmoviepodcastnightmare.blogspot.com. There will be the links in the show notes and any other links that I get that he would like to put out there. So, Roddy, I'm very sorry, and I am hoping Avalon does not visit me tonight because she gets upset about these things. Anyway, thank you and good night.
Hello, everybody. This is Vic Hermanson. Since I'm so wealthy with demerits, I thought I would try to make up for some of the mistakes I've made just by doing a decent outro, giving Avalon the night off. We've had some changes at the Paranormal Rundown. JJ Johnson has chosen to step away from his role as one of the co-hosts, simply because of life obligations. We hope to see JJ back occasionally as a guest. The Paranormal Rundown is now a joint production of Gang of Nerds Media, which includes myself, Dave Griffith, Father Michael Birdsong, his son Josh Birdsong, and of course the various disembodied consciousness participants in the show. Any music you heard came from Lobo Loco, Smart Sound, or was simply in the public domain. Any media clips that appeared in the show appeared under the protection of the Fair Use Doctrine. We will be seeking to find a replacement co-host for JJ. If you would be interested in being a host on the Paranormal Rundown, please write to us at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. If you have any interesting stories and would like to be a guest on the Rundown, please write to us at feedback@paranormalrundown.com. I'd like to apologize for this show suffering from inconsistent audio quality. We will get that fixed. And the next time you listen to the Rundown, you will hear as pristine audio quality as we can manage. So, until 2 weeks from today, thank you for listening, and we will be back with episode 20 of the Paranormal Rundown. Good night.